But Donald Trump didn't immediately do that.
That was one of the moments where I really feared for the country, because we've been going in the other direction, right? We've been going towards inclusion. And the notion that Nazis are coming back and the president is not going to denounce them after they've killed someone, that made me worry.
The wife of Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin made news with an Instarant on Instagram. It all started when Louise Linton posted a picture of herself yesterday getting off a government plane, mentioning designer labels from her outfit, including Hermes and Tom Ford. An Oregon woman responded, "Glad we could pay for your little getaway. #deplorable." Linton fired back, "Pretty sure the amount we sacrifice per year is a lot more than you'd be willing to sacrifice, and you're adorably out of touch."
It was just the most mean girl response that she sort of then apologized a little bit for, but not really. And every subsequent appearance, it's just, I mean, she sort of is just leaning into this a little bit. I mean, the latest one is her wearing black gloves up to her elbow and this black coat, holding a sheet of dollar bills with her husband, and just with this look on her face like she has puppies in her handbag that she's going to skin and to make into a coat.
I think that might have been the first time they'd seen $1 bills, so maybe they were just shocked.
I mean, she's like campaigning to be a Disney villain, basically. And I hope she wins, because I'll watch that movie. She's a great villain.
It is the year 2017, and a total eclipse of the sun is about to begin.
This crowd is very, very excited. Anthony, this is just incredible to watch. It's gone. It's gone. We're in darkness. Whoa!
Oh, you can see it. You can see it. There it is.
I totally cried.
Why did you cry?
I don't know. It was just so awesome.
Try to remember where you were, what was going on when you saw this happen.
The solar eclipse is the biggest celebrity of 2017. People could not stop talking about the eclipse. They were talking about the eclipse like it was like Brad, Angelina, George Clooney, Beyonce, and Jay-Z all wrapped up into one.
So the solar eclipse, that was great. It was like the moment where the red states and the blue states genuinely came together. Like, everybody in America was interested in the solar eclipse.
I got the little glasses, went up on the roof, you know, made a whole big thing about it. All these different like ways of looking through it, like using the cardboard boxes and the paper plates. We were all like little kids on like a school field trip that day.
People were ready to risk it all for the eclipse. They were like, I'm gonna give up my eyesight, I'm gonna give up my job because I gotta get in my RV and drive 30 hours to go get into the path of totality. People were losing it for the eclipse, and with reason. Like, when the earth stunts on you, like, you can't help but take notice. The earth was like, yes, like, y'all will gag.
The cardinal rule of an eclipse is that you cannot use it as an excuse to point your eyeballs at the sun. It will hurt your eyes. And they made it very clear. And of course, Donald Trump, who does not like being told what to do, clearly decided to celebrate this eclipse by staring directly at the sun.
I remember watching the clip, and he looked up at the sky at the eclipse, and the people in the crowd started being like, no, sir, don't do it.
These things that don't happen in America anymore happened, right? People coming together across lines. Like, there's nothing to argue about the solar eclipse. It's cool. Secondly, science, right? Actually caring about science.
You know, it's the rare pop culture moment where people are genuinely interested in learning about something.
That's good. We haven't had that in a while.
Video inside the eye wall of Hurricane Harvey shows the power of a Category 4 as it barreled into the Gulf Coast last night.
Wow, super strong winds right now.
Overnight, Irma continued its slow crawl north across Florida.
The communication has been cut. Power is out. Folks here aren't even able to reach relatives.
I know that leaders aren't supposed to cry, and especially not on TV. But we are having a humanitarian crisis.
We had Harvey, and then we had Irma.
And Maria.
We had total devastation in the Caribbean. We had total devastation in Puerto Rico. Total devastation in Houston. And that was a moment where, if you haven't been concerned about climate change, you really ought to get concerned about climate change.
In Puerto Rico, there's been a lot of controversy around the government's response to Hurricane Maria, and if their response has been significant enough or helpful enough.
The fact that you have a Real Housewife of New York, Bethany Frankel, doing more for the people of Puerto Rico than the United States president is crazy to me.
Guys, like, this is a part of the U.S. Like, this is America. This is the U.S. and we should be working just as hard to make sure that they get aid and they get what they need just as much as we did with Houston.
Oh, say, can you see?
One of the hardest hits in the NFL today took place on the sidelines.
President Trump is also taking on the wide world of sports this weekend, drawing fire from athletes and executives.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired.
So Colin Kaepernick started kneeling during the national anthem at football games when he was with the San Francisco 49ers because he was protesting police brutality.
And it's become this huge political movement.
There are those that think that to kneel is anti-American, and then there are different people that think to kneel is pro-American. You know, to kneel is actually saying this is America.
I'm a defender of the First Amendment. I believe in a peaceful protest, but my personal opinion is that there is a better way to protest than disrespecting the men and women who have fought and died for our country. And you know, these players can say over and over again, well, that's not what I want to do. You might not want to do something, but that is what you are doing.
All these right-wing politicians got it so twisted and decided to twist the narrative into something that was anti-American, anti-troops, anti-flag. And then you have the president calling players who are kneeling out of respect for people who lost their lives and out of respect for people who shared their skin color and saying that they're sons of bitches. That is the most disrespectful thing to the country that I could think of.
Football games are where we're going to have our debates about free speech in the United States of America. And not only that, but the president is going to be on the side of shutting down speech, and offensive linemen are going to be on the side of free speech. It's kind of bizarre, but that's 2017.
Hugh Hefner died last night of natural causes at the Playboy Mansion. He was 91.
Well, he certainly changed the magazine culture. He changed the American sex culture, if you will. But that came with some controversy. Back in the day, there were a lot of protests about how women were portrayed in the magazine.
Bedroom doors in this country were firmly closed, and then Hefner pushed them open.
Sex is one of the best things on this planet. I think we need to get our heads around that fact.
The reaction to Hugh Hefner's death just was interesting culturally, because it was almost like a split on whether he should be honored or reviled.
He left behind a really complicated legacy. I think some people see him as a sex-positive icon, and some people see him as someone who exploited women.
And if you think about the times that we live in now with women and the Me Too movement, I think society as a whole, you know, is very split on what his legacy is and what his legacy should be.
Our journey through 2017 now takes us to the fall, which brought us Prince Harry's engagement, the Me Too movement, and President Trump's first major legislative win.
Some sad news. The United States men's soccer team will miss the World Cup after losing to Trinidad and Tobago. Well, I know, yeah, but of course we lost. We had to play against Trinidad and Tobago. That's not fair.
I remember going to that night, I think I was traveling, saying, all right, well, we're good. You know, there have been some hairy moments on the road to qualification, but the U.S. is definitely in. And then, I think I was on Twitter late at night, and I started seeing all these sort of sad faces and unhappy jokes, and people retweeting some announcer who went rogue, and I was like, oh my God, they did qualify?
I only get hyped for soccer when they make the World Cup, which has been every year that I've been alive, except I guess now this year, next year. So terrible. I'm super upset about it because who am I going to cheer for? Iceland?
It was all very familiar. Millions of Americans glued to their televisions, waiting to hear the fate of O.J. Simpson.
Mr. Simpson, I do vote to grant parole when eligible, and that will conclude this hearing.
Thank you.
I watched OJ's hearing, and all I could think was, don't talk to the panel like that!
I'm no danger to pull a gun on anybody. I've basically spent a conflict-free life.
Like, he wasn't talking to them like someone who wanted them to let him out of prison. He was like kind of indignant, kind of like, you know, flippant, and kind of like he didn't really care if he got out of prison. I was like, does he have like a play that he's in that he wants to stay in for? Because he was not acting like he wanted to get out.
And now he's free to walk the world again and probably be put into Congress the rate it's going now.
Rock legend Tom Petty has died after suffering a cardiac arrest in his Malibu home Sunday night. Petty rose to fame in the 1970s with his band Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. The group put out several hits such as American Girl, Stop Dragging My Heart Around, Breakdown, and others that earned them a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that was such a blow. Tom Petty always felt like he was kind of like the low-key hero of American music.
There's an argument to be made that Tom Petty, and the Heartbreakers are, the greatest American rock band of all time.
It's always hard for a lot of people, I think, when a music icon dies because, he was a big part of a lot of people's childhoods, a lot of people's road trips.
We've all been at bars when American Girl comes on, or I Won't Back Down comes on, or Writing Down a Dream comes on. And he was such a giant in the industry.
He was so much his own niche. When he died, we suddenly realized what a gift it had been to have him in the first place and what a loss that would be.
As the gunfire erupted, police raced toward the scene past the fleeing crowd.
I'm seeing muzzle flashes in the middle of Mandalay Bay on the north side, like one of the middle floors.
Be advised, it is automatic fire. Fully automatic fire from an elevated position. Take cover.
We can't worry about victims. We need to stop the shooter before we have more victims. Anybody have eyes on this shooter?
We're shocked, horrified, completely dumbfounded.
The shooter's brother, Eric Paddock, shed no light on a possible motive when he spoke with reporters outside his Orlando home.
No religious affiliation, no political affiliation, no, he just hung out.
I swear I could have sworn we had deadliest shooting last year. And I was like, damn, is it going to be like every year somebody's trying to top the deadliest shooting in America?
The Las Vegas incident really brought to light again for, the millionth time, the issue of gun control in this country.
I'm very big proponent of the Second Amendment. Definitely sympathetic to a bump stock ban. Don't quite understand why those are accessible in the open market.
We're still trying to figure out who he is, what his motive was. So much has been hidden, and we've kind of brushed it under the rug.
It starts to feel like a broken record, something tragic and horrible and ultimately preventable happens. If this person hadn't had access to those guns, then, it wouldn't have happened. It really can't be overstated.
I was like at a loss. Like, I can't believe we're doing this again. The same tags, the same news headlines, literally.
Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein is taking a leave of absence after a New York Times report uncovered a long history of sexual harassment allegations.
In the New York Times Tuesday, Angelina Jolie and Gwyneth Paltrow say Weinstein harassed them early in their careers. And Academy Award winner Mira Sorvino told The New Yorker she was harassed as well.
The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences voted today to expel Harvey Weinstein. More than 30 women have accused the movie titan of sexual harassment or assault. The Academy is calling for an end to the industry's, quote, shameful complicity and sexually predatory behavior.
The Harvey Weinstein scandal sort of started like the same way that a pot of water starts to boil. At first there were like little bubbles and like you sort of heard things about it. You heard maybe there was a New York Times article coming out, and then all of a sudden it boiled over in a way that I don't think even he expected, and he knows what he did.
Once there was one, there were then many.
Louis C.K., James Toback,
Al Franken, Jeffrey Tambor,
George Takei,
Jeremy Piven.
And then there's Matt Lauer.
We also saw Bill O'Reilly,
Kevin Spacey,
Dustin Hoffman,
R. Kelly, Brett Ratner.
I mean, even Charlie Rose.
Many people. And it really started this movement that made it feel like maybe finally we're at a place where this is not acceptable. So this hashtag started called #MeToo, which was women on Facebook and social media who had been themselves sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, just sharing #MeToo to indicate how widespread it is.
My timeline was just #MeToo top to bottom, which is really sad.
Almost everybody on my Facebook feed has had a #MeToo story. And me too.
And I think it was a real wake-up call to a lot of people to realize that this is the norm. It's not the exception.
Women are now being believed, and that's the turning point.
Weeks after 4 U.S. soldiers were killed in Niger, information is still trickling out about exactly what happened.
When the attack was over, 3 U.S. soldiers were mortally wounded, 2 injured, and 1 stranded. Sergeant LaDavid Johnson was separated from the group, and his body recovered 48 hours later by Nigerian forces.
The president called the families of all 4 soldiers, and he is denying accusations he was less than respectful to one of them.
He never said the word hero. He said to the wife, well, I guess he knew what he was getting into. How insensitive can you be?
Gave the ultimate sacrifice for this country, and Trump couldn't even react with basic human empathy. I mean, how bad do you have to be at this to not be able to tell a woman who has lost her husband that you're authentically sorry?
Example of the media that I think they were a little too harsh on President Trump, because I know the way he talks, and I'm sure it wasn't intended to be insensitive.
We saw all kinds of media back and forth between the right saying, oh, President Trump would never be uncompassionate, even John Kelly coming out and saying that's an absolute lie, the left is politicizing this, and then you have people on the left saying, whoa, 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 this is about a commander-in-chief who did not respond well to the deaths of one of his men.
And I think it overshadowed his sacrifice, honestly. It became more about like a he said, she said.
You just have this awful, awful story where it's unhappiness on top of unhappiness compounded by bad politics, compounded by lying. You know, we just get these messes upon messes upon messes right now, and it's distressing.
The biggest shot in Cavs history. They're going up. Oh my goodness. Hayward came down so hard. Okay, Hayward broke his leg. Hayward has broken his... Oh my gosh.
So I definitely did see that. And my heart sinks with that kind of stuff because I'm like, you're done.
It's the first quarter of the first game. The best player, so excited in Boston, right? Goes up and he's like inside, he bumps. It's not even a foul and he comes down and it's like his leg or ankle snaps in half.
People were crying on the court.
The other players reacted with shock and horror, much like the fans and everybody watching on TV did. I mean, I remember Dwayne Wade got down on one knee, and players gathering around each other. There was a palpable level of shock and horror.
Watching it, you just visceral pain for this guy who's at the peak of his athletic career, who wasn't doing something crazy. You know, he didn't blow out his legs skiing while drunk. He did it while like driving to the hoop against Cleveland.
That was a egregious injury. It was terrible to look at.
Planning is underway this morning for a royal wedding in London. I can't wait. I'm not even invited, and I can't wait. The palace announced this morning that Prince Harry is engaged to his girlfriend, American actress Meghan Markle.
The star of the hit drama series Suits.
Pretty. Good. You hit on me.
She's from the U.S., has an African-American mother, and over 2 million followers on social media.
Meghan Markle marrying Prince Harry is being called a 21st century Cinderella story at Buckingham Palace.
When I found out Prince Harry was engaged to Meghan Markle, I reacted as if I myself had gotten engaged to Prince Harry, and I was like, what am I gonna wear? What's my room gonna be like at Buckingham Palace? And is the Queen gonna be nice to me? Up until the day they announced that they were engaged, I didn't know anything about Meghan Markle except for that her name was Meghan Markle, and even that was like dicey. And after they announced the engagement, I was like, she's 5'7", she loves purple, she was on Suits, her character's name was Rachel. Like, I went off on Wikipedia.
A small community in South Texas was shattered today by a deadly mass shooting inside a church. A gunman opened fire at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, about 30 miles outside San Antonio. The pastor's wife tells CBS News their 14-year-old daughter was killed, along with many friends.
A pregnant woman and her unborn child are among the dead.
26 people were killed in the Sutherland Springs shooting at a small church down there, and it's just devastated the entire community. I mean, you had a family where kids, where grandkids, where sisters, brothers, fathers, mothers all died. I mean, I don't know how you recover from that. It's sad. I understand that the guy who did it, he suffered from mental illness.
A man who had what many of these shooters have in common, which is domestic violence in their past. And yet we still act as though the primary threat to our country in terms of terrorism is a sort of Muslim ideology instead of what it really is, time after time after time, which is angry white men who have violent issues against women and feelings of entitlement acting out.
This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jeff Glor at CBS News headquarters in New York. Good day. President Trump is about to announce a change in what has been U.S. policy for nearly 70 years through 12 administrations. He will say the United States now recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Jerusalem is home to Jewish, Christian, and Muslim holy sites and has long been at the center of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The decision sparked widespread protests in the region. U.S. embassies and consulates were put on high alert after the announcement.
So President Trump has made the very historic and I think brave decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel rather than Tel Aviv. I think that this is absolutely the right step to take. The only reason that Jerusalem is significant to anyone is because it was significant to Israel. It was significant to the Jewish people first. Before it was significant to Christians, before it was significant to Muslims, it was first significant to the Jewish people. It is the rightful capital of Israel.
Alabama Republican Senate candidate Roy Moore is facing accusations of sexual misconduct. The Washington Post is now reporting that several women have come forward with claims against the former Alabama Chief Justice. One accuser says that Moore initiated a sexual encounter back in 1979 when she was just 14 years old.
There was kind of a wrestling match of sorts in Alabama. It was an earthquake, you could say. The traditionally Republican state of Alabama surprised the world by electing a Democratic senator. Doug Jones narrowly defeated Roy Moore in yesterday's special election.
Where would the world be without black women, I ask? Well, I know where Doug Jones would be. Not in the Senate. Because 98% of black women voted for Doug Jones, and something like 93% of black men voted for Doug Jones to defeat Roy Moore, who, number one, should not have been in the race to begin with. The fact that the bar is so low that the only requirement was like not a pedophile is insane.
I think people are making it too simple by saying the people who are voting for Roy Moore are okay with pedophilia. I don't think that's true. I think that they are trying to decide, okay, with my moral conscience, what is the lesser of two evils? Do I want someone that is a liberal who is going to vote against everything that I stand for, who is adamantly pro-choice, full-term abortion, or am I going to vote for someone who might have a creepy past, but at least I believe in his agenda?
But it cannot be overstated how huge it is that Alabama, which is like the reddest of the red states, turned blue for a Democrat for the first time in a long time.
The yeas are 224 and the nays are 201.
The motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The tax plan, according to a conservative like me, isn't absolutely perfect. I think it could cut individual taxes even more, but it does double the standard deduction, lowers the corporate tax rate, which I hope is going to boost the economy.
Businesses are a good thing. Incentivizing them to create jobs, I think, is always a net positive. And net increase for the middle class, you get to keep more of your own money, which my taxes are going down, so I'm pretty happy about that.
The Federal Communications Commission today voted to roll back Obama-era regulations on the companies that provide internet service. The commission scrapped what's called net neutrality, which required providers to give websites equal access to the internet.
So just to round out this amazing year that was 2017, just right at the buzzer, the FCC decided to vote to dismantle net neutrality, which means that now it can be monetized and there will be like a money market for how we receive and distribute things on the internet, which means my tweets are about to be $5 a tweet.
So we had a crazy year, didn't we? We had a lot of news.
I feel like just like everything was so consistently bad. Like we thought 2016 was bad, and then this year happened and we learned to not complain.
If I could say anything to the year 2017,